climate change and tips for tackling it.
Thank you for tuning in to Mundo Blue. Today we're with Rick Tindal of Perfect Block. And Rick, tell us what you're doing here.
Well, what we do, if you can pan over here, is that we repurpose some waste material. This is number 6 plastic. It's also commonly known as styrofoam. And it's the most prevalent styrofoam waste that we have that's ended up in the landfills. We actually grind it up into an aggregate. We repurpose this stuff and we mix it with cement and some other admixtures. And we make a composite block, a mixture of block made out of cement and styrofoam as the aggregate. And then we put it in molds, form it hard. And if you can pan right here, you can see a few of the block that we make. We make 10 different elements, and these are all incorporated in building houses and buildings, commercial or residential. And this is what we do here, is that we take that waste material that would ultimately be heading to the landfill, and then we grind it up, repurpose it, and then make the mixture that goes into the molds. And then these things are stacked like Legos out on the job sites, and they replace wood for construction. They have super insulating properties, they're fire resistant, they're termite or pest resistant. We have testing for 4-hour fire rating, and we have wind testing for 250 mile an hour wind. So it's great for the coastal regions, the tornado alley, also wildfire prone areas, because you got a 4-hour fire rating with the wall. But you have to do sensible stuff like protect your windows, your soffits, windows, doors, soffits, and roof
space
too for fire. About the only thing we don't have is it doesn't flood, so stay out of the flood zones.
How did this come about?
Great question. This was assumed the technology came from Europe, meaning styrofoam was invented shortly after World War II. And it was used for the same thing that's used now. It was a great packing material. And then, but once it was used, it now became trash or refuse. And I assume they were having landfill problems way back in the 50s and the 60s. And somebody brilliant ground it up into an aggregate and mixed it with cement. And they were able to use that material to build all sorts of things. But these molds that they used were meant to be placed and then filled with rebar, reinforcing steel, and concrete, which made a super strong structure. Here's an example of a part of the wall where it was poured. The blocks were stacked. It was poured, and then foam was removed, and this is what you have inside. This is your actual structure for the block, and you can imagine this being concrete columns and concrete bond beams every 12 inches, how strong that can be when compared to wood construction. And it's ultimately for exterior wall construction. You can still use wood framing and stuff inside, but for the exterior wall where your thermal envelope is, it's ideal for that. Plus you've got super strength when it comes to Mother Nature and all the things Mother Nature can release on you. This is an ideal building product. Plus it's really easy for those people who would like to build their own house to do it. How I came into this business was I was an owner builder. I saw this when I was stationed over in Europe, fell in love with it there, found it available here in the United States, and I built my house out of it. I've since taken that skill that I had developed while building my house, joined with my partner, and we started building houses out of building material, and then that eventually led to, we think we could make something better, so we did the R&D and we made our own blocks.
And you use less materials. Do you?
Sure. I mean, 87% of every block that we make is this styrofoam, all ground up into an egg.
87%.
87.
That's
The other
incredible.
13% is cement and some admixture. We actually often show people, this is a MAP gas torch. This is 3,700 degrees Fahrenheit. It's way more than you'd ever see in a house fire or a wildfire. But we typically take a piece of this material and burn it in hand. We can do that test later if you'd like to see that, and show that this even responds well to even higher temperatures than you'd ever envision having during a wildfire. So, or a house fire. The block has a tendency to sell itself, meaning when people actually do the research and they look a little further into it, they said, well, hey, I can do that. I can use that. It costs about the same as wood or less. It makes sense to people, and it sells itself. And plus, it's keeping all of that out of landfill.
Yeah.
And the experts say that this stuff will hang in the landfill for 500 years. So what better thing to do than just to grind it up and use it as building material?
And alternative building materials are starting to really catch on.
Correct. But I want to say something about alternative. Alternative tends to sound like something that is not mainstream. This is actually mainstream material. They're in the International Residential Code, which encompasses what I call the big five. That's wood framing, metal framing, masonry, which is CMU, cinder block, and then there's exterior concrete wall system, which is what we are. We're an exterior concrete wall system, and we're further differentiated as a screen grid. And it's in the International Residential Code. The last one would be SIPs, or structurally insulated panels. Those are the big five. So we're not alternative, we're mainstream. But we're an alternative to wood.
Right, okay.
Makes sense, all right? Just
well,
I wanted to make that
up,
clear because this is not straw bale construction or rammed earth or earth ship or something like that. It's one of the big five, and it's a mainstream building material. It hasn't caught on like it has in Europe. Europe and the world left wood as a main construction material decades ago. North America is the only holdout on that because apparently we have vast forests that they like to cut down all the time. And it really doesn't make sense because we do have a very prevalent building material that we could use that would save a lot of trees. You can still keep the wood for furniture and interior framing and that sort of thing. But you don't need to be building houses that Mother Nature proves every year around the country that building with wood was a mistake. It's either burned to the ground to ashes, it's either blown to pieces by a tornado or hurricane. And frankly, that should not continue. That needs to stop because people lose their lives, they lose their livelihood, they lose everything when you lose a house. And that really is not something that we should continually do over and over again. We're better than that. We can learn.
Right.
European technology that we took and we think we improved it. And we take lots of material from the public.
I was just going to ask about that.
Example is coolers. Those are ideal. We get them also from hospitals for pharmaceutical shipments. They send a lot of that stuff to the landfill, and we in the local area, in the Phoenix area, we have our own truck. We'll go out there and pick it up for free for large donors, and then and people are donate it to us for free. Otherwise, they'd be paying landfill charges, or they'd be paying not only landfill charges but the transportation to the landfill to get rid of it. So, and there isn't a whole lot of people that I know that are recycling this. So if you tell a homeowner, a person who's got a big screen TV and they got all these big pieces of white foam, and they go, oh man, I hate throwing that in the trash, or throwing it in the recycle bin. And then the recyclers say, well, we don't recycle that. So where do you think they're going to put it next? They're going to put it in the trash can next to the recycle bin. And then where does it go? It goes to the landfill. So we never stop. We try to improve everything we do, including the techniques that we use when we build. If you look at our website, theperfectblock.com, there's a comprehensive build manual and a sequential pictorial, lots of pictures showing how we as a builder, because we're builders too, we're not just manufacturers, so we have a building arm to our manufacturing arm. Our manufacturing arm is actually Eco-Building Systems. The Perfect Block is the name of the block, the nickname, but it's also the website.
So what is the insulating factor on this?
Well, they're different we have 4 different wall block. If you want to pan over there, the one on the bottom is our 10-inch with a 6x6 core, meaning what you're looking at here is a 4x6 core. That's a 6x6 core. So if you needed it for taller walls or below grade like basements, things like that, or you just needed additional strength for in a seismic D category area like the West Coast, which is inundated with earthquakes, that might be the block to choose. Just above that is our 10-inch asymmetric. Call it the 10-inch asymmetric because it's got a thicker side on one and a thinner side on the other. It reduces the size of the core, which reduces the consumption of concrete when you're building a house. Still, it's so strong you're not going to be able to drive a truck through it. But in residential building, you don't really need to build a bomb shelter.
Right.
Essentially, just needs to be strong enough to deal with every Mother Nature event that you might occur, and that's been tested to the 4-hour fire rating and the 250 mile an hour wind rating with Intertech Laboratories in Texas. And then just above that, which is also an example for how electrical and plumbing is a little different than framed walls, but that's an 8-inch. That has the same core as the one below, which is a 4x6 core. And then up above that is a 6-inch. The 6-inch is, as a manufacturer, we recommend that be used for interior partition walls, not for the exterior wall that is going to, in fact, hold the roof up. It can be load bearing, but it has a 3x6 core, which is a little thin for engineers to engineer there. If you want, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things that make this stuff much different from wood construction. What you're looking at down here on the bottom, this is an 8-inch block, and it's representative of a stucco application on the face of the block. This is actually a 2-coat stucco. These 2 on the end are just 2 different finish patterns. One's a sand finish, one's a Monterey. But this bare block, this is a brown coat, and then one finish coat. And what's different about this, when stucco is the big king here out in the southwest of other parts of the nation. So stucco is simple when using this because the brown coat goes directly on the block, because the face of the block has a lot of texture or tooth to hold that brown coat. So you're skipping the first layers of an EFIS system, which is an exterior insulation finish system, and that's designed to go over wood framing, because cement, wood, 2 dissimilar materials, they have to isolate this layer here from the 2 different materials because they expand and contract at different rates. This, on the other hand, is cementitious, so it expands and contracts at nearly the same rate. So you minimize cracking, and because it's cementitious, the brown coat, cement coat, goes directly into the block. So you're looking at 2 layers versus foam, chicken wire, and tar paper, tape, and then a scratch coat. Scratch coat is used to stiffen up the chicken wire and the tar paper, and then the brown coat goes on top of the scratch coat. So no scratch coat here, starts the brown coat, finish coat, you're done. So your bid for stucco should be about 1/3 of what an EFIS system
That's pretty
would be.
substantial.
And then it'll accept any kind of adhesive. This is a thin set mortar, and you can see faux stone, tile, porcelain tile. You just butter the back of whatever's going on here, and that application, that installation there, and hammer and chisel if you want to get that off. It's super strong, and it goes right on the face of it. This is drywall, and this is a drywall nut. This is just taping compound. So, like I said, anything that's adhesive, and there's a lot of adhesive in general purpose drywall nut, and you either butter the wall or butter the board and stick it up there like a big piece of tile, support it so it doesn't fall down, and when that stuff's hard, there's another installation that would require hammer and chisel to get off. Okay. So, and then along with this, these are things that we take to home shows and builder shows, just to show that electrical and plumbing is just a little bit different than doing it through framing. The same codes require. This is a Romex example, a conduit example. Metal boxes I prefer, that's just me because I built this. It could be plastic if you want it. And then the tool of choice to do all these channels is an electric chainsaw, a display item. We need to talk about the block up there at the top. The one at the top is an end cap block, and the one just below it is the corner block. We use the corner block in every construction project that we do, because we don't cut corners. We actually offset corners by the footprint that one of these blocks create when it's sitting on standing on end. All right, so this has an 8-inch side and a 10-inch side. This is for 10-inch block for these two down here. And when we're building, we build clockwise. We offset by about 10 inches, and then we drop the first block down and then go around clockwise. When we come back to the very end, we put a line at 8 inches, and that's where we cut the block.
Alternative, it is an alternative to wood, like you're
Alternative
saying.
to wood, okay, or metal framing, because it's essentially replacing the exterior wall, or the recommendation from us is replace the exterior wall with something that is going to be resilient to all the things that Mother Nature can send to you.
Right.
Plus, there is something about how it feels when you're living in one of these houses, because sound attenuation up to around 70 decibels is be cut out. It's very quiet.
70 decibels.
Very quiet compared to other building materials, and it's a solid house. Plus, from energy conservation, technologies like mini-split technologies are ideal for this, because this is a tremendous thermal envelope. We also recommend an unvented attic where you use spray foam under the lid of the roof, and your attic becomes conditioned airspace, or at least airspace that flows from below and above, where you don't have this vented attic with no insulation at the top, but blown insulation just over your head in the drywall. And so you have this hot or cold bubble during the seasons right above your head. And the blown insulation is kind of problematic if you want to use that area up there for anything like storage or living environment. Spray foam adhesive is a much better way to bring your, just to create a wonderful thermal envelope for the house. And then mini-split technology is not new. The rest of the world, decades and decades ago, North America go, ooh man, new stuff. You know, just getting into the mini split.
It's not new.
Look at any of the old movies from made overseas. You're going to see these little units sticking outside these buildings. Those are all mini split technology. They've been around for decades.
Okay, I would like to see what's around back.
Sure.
And we'll do that before we finish.
Out here, but it goes through cold and wet, a cold and hot and wet and dry cycle. Just makes the block tougher and stronger by doing that. And so it could sit out here for 10 years and it'd still be functional. About the only thing that would take a hit would be the wood pallets that could sit on and the straps. But
Where?
that's our guard cat sitting on top of the block out there.
Just keeping one. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us, and I really appreciate learning more about this. Thank you, and have a wonderful day, Rick. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Mundo Blue. See you next time.